listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 225, The Artwoods Art Gallery. And coming to you from the sunny, hot suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the suburbs of Providence, I'm your co-host, John Weird Dreams Matola.
Uh-oh. What are you having dreams about? Are they okay to say on the show?
So I was saving this one specifically for today because it had to do with the show, which is really weird.
You dreamed that we're able to actually find a time to record?
No, but actually no, I daydream of that, but
yeah.
But no, it's a really odd dream, right? So I go over to your parents' house to get some records. You sent me there. You're just like, go over there. They have some.
Don't let my parents see you.
Go
Dress all in black.
No, to knock on the door, not to sneak in and steal them. To go over there, be like, go. My parents know you're coming over there, so just go over there. You got to get these records. I'm assuming they were Deep Purple records. I don't know. Okay, I don't remember my dream. So anyway, I go over and I distinctly remember the back door of your childhood home. Mm-hmm. Knock on the door. Your parents open the door, and they couldn't have been any less about having me there. They're like, what? They're like, this is not a good time.
Not interested at all. Like, ugh.
And then I immediately became uncomfortable. I'm like, nothing.
And then you left. Like, what was that all about?
Well, right. So now I was trying to leave, and then 17-year-old you, but not you. It was your cousin, but not your cousin Jeff that I grew up with. Just Nate's cousin, who happened to look like 17-year-old you, was all like, yeah, when you came running over and you're just like, John, what's up? And I'm like, all right.
I have a really gravelly voice for a 17-year-old. Or he did. Is it like the Patty Duke show? It's identical cousins.
Yeah, something like that. But I specifically remember it was not you, but it was, it was one of your relatives, and you were just like, you were trying to, of course, it was nothing like you when you were young, because you were very, the way you are now, reserved, not really like wacky, like, hey, and he was like trying to jump on my back to get a piggyback ride. I'm like, what is this fucking dude doing?
He jumped on your back.
Yeah, I remember I was trying to give like Bizarro you or like a piggyback or something. You're like, come on, John, let's goof off. Yeah. I'm like, I'm Crazy Nate, Crazy Nate's cousin, and then I woke up and I'm like, God damn it. What the hell was that?
You're like, God damn, we're going to find some time to record. So I stopped having this crazy dream.
That's what that dream meant, was it's just like, quit goofing off and start recording. But yeah, and that's really unusual because I remember that I'm aware that I have dreams most night that I fall asleep, but I never remember them. And this was probably the first one in a while that I remembered like any details. And I thought it was interesting that it had to do with us.
That's pretty great. And in the theme of people substituting for one of us, you remember a couple years ago when you came to visit and we all went downtown and we got ice cream and we did like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, today we did like almost the exact same thing, but instead of you, we took the dog. But we went to like all the same spots. We didn't take her in the antique store. But we went along the river walk. She like full on, there was like some ducks swimming in the river. And she was like, well, I'm going in there. And she like was literally in midair. And I just like yanked her leash back, but she was fully ready to just go right in the drink to get those ducks.
So are you saying that a couple of years ago, I was like your dog?
No, it was way easier a couple years ago when you came with us. I didn't need to have you on a leash. You didn't crap right in front of the Apple store and I didn't have to pick it up. So there was a lot of advantages.
I didn't crap in front of the Apple store that you know of.
I guess if you did, you just, hey Nate, what's that thing over there? You were real quick. Just a little curly Q on the ground there.
Oh, good times, good times.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, folks, speaking of good times, if you want to continue to experience these good times and support these good times, the Deep Purple podcast is 100% listener supported and ad free. So if you receive some value from our show, please consider giving us some value back, supporting us. You can support us a number of ways. One is by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. 2 is by buying some merch on our Etsy store. And thirdly, you can become a patron on Patreon or on PayPal for as little as $1 a month. Becoming a Patreon gives you full access to our exclusive patrons only Discord and our ratings spreadsheet. You can also donate using $DPPOD on Cash App or support us on Ko-fi for a mention on the show. So thank you to anybody that does that. It keeps us in good things. We put all the money right back into the show. We're saving up for a new recording computer, although this one seems to still be trucking along.
Hanging on.
What's that?
It's hanging on.
Oh, I thought you said hang on, like you have to go to the bathroom.
No, I wouldn't have said that to you.
You didn't know 5 minutes ago that you had to go to the bathroom?
Well, I mean, talking about crapping in front of the Apple store had me got me going there. So
yeah, nothing as comforting as that thought. We are going to see Glenn Hughes in September in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Woo!
At the Palladium. If you're going to go, let us know. We're planning a small little meetup. You can buy tickets. We'll have links in the show notes. September 19th with Yngwie opening. Or, well, we don't know yet. It's a double headliner. So one will be opening, one will be closing. I think they're alternating every other night. So we don't really know until then who's going to be the opener, who's going to be the closer. But come check us out. And we'll be having a little meetup beforehand that we'll shoot out to everybody. Any updates beyond that on the meetup?
Nothing yet. Although I will say that later this month, August 26th, which is also National Dog Day, so maybe you could take the dog out for a crap in front of
what business should we crap in front of this time?
I don't know. I got a few in mind. Take her. I don't know what's comparable to the Apple Store.
Well, the Apple Store is a pretty big company, so it'd have to be something big.
Yeah, what do they have retail stores for now? That's bad. I don't even go into retail stores anymore, so I don't even know what's out there.
Rare, yeah.
Like brick and mortar, just take her to the local mall and just have her dump in front of Target or something.
There you go. That's a good idea.
But anyway, August 26th, National Dog Day. Also in Worcester, Beyond Purple, which is a showcase of biggest hits from Deep Purple, Whitesnake, Rainbow, and Dio, born out of the Deep Purple family tree. So this is I guess like a tribute act that we haven't seen before, but sounds very compelling. And I think I discussed it a while ago with Rich. I believe that at least him and I are going to attempt to go. So if anybody else is free that night, let us know. That's before.
No, I think that's my friend Dave Morris's birthday. E-Rock's birthday is October 26th, right?
I think it's in October. Yeah.
Yeah. So my friend Dave, his birthday is the 26th of August.
Right.
Six in my head.
But this place is at Rascals in Worcester, a good time place for good time people. Is their tagline. Place. Good time place for good time purple that night.
Oh, so there you go.
So if anybody's
not on the flyers, they should.
Yeah. So if anybody's in the area and wants to catch a night of Deep Purple family tree music, hopefully these guys look cool. I think we mentioned them like a little while ago, on an earlier episode, a prelude to this. But yeah, just hit us up on the socials or email through the website, whatever, and let us know. Unfortunately, Nate can't make the flight out for everything. So
yeah, there's also Blackmore's night happening in November, and I'm like, I don't know if I could fly out to New England 3 times or the Northeast rather 3 times in that much amount of time, unless we all of a sudden get like a huge influx of patrons.
Yeah,
to
right.
Accommodate. Although the good thing is, I guess I wouldn't need a hotel room, but still. So, speaking of patrons coming in at the executive level, we have at the $25 uncommon man tier, we have Ovis Nakvi and Purple Maniac. We have, of course, at the 15 squid tier, we have none other than Alan. We have at the $10 good doctor tier, Dr. Jill Brees and Dr. Mike Catan. Sorry, still working on that jingle. This is like the first time I've literally even been down in the studio since we last recorded. It's just the end of the summer has just been crazy here.
Yeah.
At the turn it up to $11 tier, we have Clay Wambacher, Frank Thielgard Mortensen, Mickelstein, and Will Porter, PhD PP. At the $10 someone came tier, Ryan M, Jeff Bryce, Victor Campos, and Better Call Saul Evans. And at the Hughes Oween by 2033 tier, Fielding Fowler. And at the in memoriam tier, Gerald Kelly and his wonderful family. Thank you so much to everybody. I did get one, well, not just one, but one interesting email that I wanted to write, to read. Ron writes in talking about the blues album, the Glenn Hughes blues album, and podcasting apps. First of all, he says, this album was never designed to be an old school blues record. This is white boy blues, boogie hard rock. Think of old school Aerosmith, big 10-inch, reefer headed woman, backtrack train. Backpack train.
I mean, those were better though. I mean,
Yes.
in my opinion,
arguably. But then he said he's a Stitcher fan who went to Pocket Cast, and he said it's an excellent place to listen to you guys. So Pocket Cast, I checked it out. It actually looks pretty cool. It looks like it's a website and app and all that sort of stuff. So looks like a pretty cool place.
all right.
So check it out if you don't have a podcast app, or if you're a Stitcher fan who, by the time this episode comes out, Stitcher will be wrapping up. I think they're done the end of August. So you'll be looking for something.
Well, I have to say that in reference to our last episode about the blues, I like the meme that Rich sent to us with Abraham Lincoln, a picture of Abe Lincoln that says, "This is not the blues, Abraham Lincoln."
Yeah.
And he said that line actually made him laugh out loud in his truck. So it's like mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that funny, but apparently it was. This isn't the blues, Abe
this
Lincoln.
Is not Mel Torme. So another interesting thing is,
Hey-o!
We have an Apple Podcasts review, this time coming to us from Lord Gillers in the UK. 5 stars. The title of this is Deep Purple and Beyond. Lord Gillers writes in and says, this podcast is a must for all fans of classic rock. Using Deep Purple and its members as a starting point, the podcast covers some of the best music since the late 60s as it branches out to cover the works of Deep Purple and its ex-members. Hosted by Nathan and John in a relaxed, humorous manner, you'll come across some classics as well as some music you've never heard before or forgotten. Plus, you'll have a laugh on the way. So thank you, Lord Gillers.
Now, is he the 100th or not?
Is he the 100th? Let me calculate this and see.
Oh.
Sorry, Lord Gillers, you are not the 100th, but you've gotten us one review closer to the 100th. Let's just say we're in the home stretch. So it seems to be working, having this little target of 100 reviews. So if you come in and you are the 100th reviewer, we're going to send you some sort of Deep Purple podcast merch, memorabilia, something. We haven't decided yet. We figure when we actually get to the 100, we'll figure it out. We'll contact you. Maybe we'll let you know, and then we can tell everybody what you got. But
yeah, if you're local to the New England area, you could win a candlelight dinner with me.
That's right, the dream date with John.
The mystery date. You open up the door, I'm there with flowers. You know that little game, you open it up and the little guy's there with flowers. You have like the nerd and
Yeah, the dream.
Stuff.
Didn't it have like a fake phone too?
Or
there was one of those games. I know
remember.
it was like a date game that like, it had like a phone and it would be like, "Hey Becky, you want to say?" Like just whatever. You can tell I never played it. So, I don't have any of the details. I seem to remember somebody I knew had it, but I can't remember who it was. Okay, so yeah, really appreciate the review. We're getting closer,
Yes,
so hopefully,
yes.
hey, when we're together, maybe we can like write a note on something or autograph something for. Well, we could just do a big bag of swag. We could do one of our autographed coasters for them. I'm sure. The Gardeau is probably having Deep Purple podcast coasters printed as we speak.
Yeah.
we could
Yeah.
sign them. Have the Gardeau and the Roback and the Shaylor all sign them.
Oh, it'd be great. Is it like if we all like signed under like we all signed like the "Come Taste the Band" album, and then we said under each under each member,
Yes, get a copy of "Come Taste the Band" and we all sign it.
signed by all of us. Or just like,
Signed by
okay,
Pops. Or he could record a message for them. Hey, you wrote a review of these podcasts. My son. That's more like Christopher Walken, actually.
actually, you know what? I think that could be a good part of the grab bag.
Yeah, the
Like
grab bag.
a
This is turning
personal,
into quite a treat. We
a
might have to do.
personal cameo
We
from
might have to do
Pops.
two because I feel like it's not the people that reviewed us years ago. It's not fair to them that they don't get a chance at this. So maybe we'll have to do two. Maybe we'll like auction like two of them off. Well, one of them will be for the 100th review, and then the other one could be for like a random patron or a random listener or something like that. We'll put our heads together and figure this out. The
All right.
cost of
Well,
the coasters and everything shouldn't be too much.
right, but I
We'll have to
definitely
figure
think
out what
I
other
think
swag.
a cameo from Pops would be a shout out from Pops on the show would be he'd just be
A
like,
cameo.
"Hey, this is Pops. What the hell do you want me to say?" All
Who am I
right, there
supposed
you
to?
go. There it
Who am I talking to? Is this Blackmore Tights? Um,
is. That Yangwi guy?
Young Wee Shaylor. Okay, so yeah, we've got just one other thing I think before we get into the real meat of the podcast. But of course, you can check out deepdivepodcastnetwork.com for all of our brother and sister shows who do similar things to us. Everyone's got their own take, their own spin on things. Some people pull random songs. Some people just pull random, albums to review, random songs, or they do interviews with people. There's all sorts of different stuff out there. So just check them all out. If there's a band you're interested in, give the podcast a whirl. I think we have a very niche audience. We have a great big audience, bigger than we would have ever expected. So thank you to all of you for listening. But you probably have to have some passing interest in Deep Purple to start listening to us, and then two, you have to agree with our shtick, and many people don't, so they don't listen, and that's fine because our shtick is not for everybody. But this is kind of the whole point of this show, and our show is just our personal journey, our past, our present, and the future of our journey in discovering new things about Deep Purple, talking about old things, our life along the way. So if you're into that and listening, thank you very much. Okay, so before we move on, we have, of course, we have postcards from the edge of Connecticut. Now, this one was a little different. So I got this great big box in the mail, and I'm like, what the heck is this? So I opened the box, and I saw right on top, I opened it, I'm like, what is this? I didn't order this. I thought it was something like that Amazon messed up. Mm-hmm. And there was a little note that they actually printed kind of poorly and off-centered, so it's hard to read. But it says, what I think it says is, Nate, now here's a nifty little box for you. Store your DPP goodies here. I have something of them for postcards. Hope you enjoy the color, from Pete. So you can see it's like kind of cut off there. And then underneath it, there's like a gift receipt, and this is a Deep Purple photo storage box. So
literally.
Yeah, so I'm gonna crack this thing open right here on the show. And,
this is where you're gonna put your postcards?
Yeah, no, I was actually thinking about that, so he must have read my mind. Or maybe I talked about it on a previous show, but
well, you did. You were talking about how you just have this huge collection of them.
Yeah, it's just a pile.
Yeah.
I haven't had time, so I got this stores 1,100 photos, so oh my goodness. I've gotten a lot of postcards, but I don't know if I'm going to come close to that. It's got a little spacers and dividers. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
You can divide them by location.
What's that?
You can divide them by location, sort them that way.
Sort them by location, exactly. So that's not it, though. We got another postcard here which needs me to cue up a different song. So this one, if you can see it, it's which will probably give away who it's from. It's a little painting of Rory Gallagher, and it says "Rock On." Born at the Rock Hospital, Rory sang his first notes here on 2nd of March, 1948, from an original painting by Barry Sweeney in 2013. And this one says, and I gotta say, my handwriting is pretty terrible. Pete's is probably not great, but the Roback's handwriting is amazing. I mean, just look at how nice and clean his handwriting is.
Wow,
that's great, right? So much easier to read than my chicken scratch. It says, "Hey Nate, here's a postcard I forgot to send you while I was in Ireland for you." Full U.S. and Irish postage. So if you look here, you'll see it does. He put an Irish or Irish stamp on it, and then
nice.
Probably forgot to mail it, so we had to put the U.S. stamp on it too when he got back. He says he suggests Cradle Rock, which we're listening to right now, off of Rory's Irish Tour '74 live album, as a companion track for this card, The Roback. So,
nice.
And I can't help but notice, I don't know if he did this on purpose, but the beginning of Cradle Rock sounds exactly like Bloodsucker.
I was gonna say, was that like a? I thought it was gonna be like a. Is it like some kind of like odd version of like Bloodsucker that we hadn't heard? And
nope, but here it is again for you. Almost exactly the same little riff there.
Very cool though. Cool song though. Nice recommendation from the Roback.
And I was looking. I had this postcard on my desk, and I was watching this video, and my daughter came along and saw she was like, "Hey, is this the postcard of the guy in the video?" And I was like, "Wow, pretty good observation. So it must be a good likeness."
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's kind of all the catch up on that sort of stuff. And here we are today to talk about the Artwoods. My goodness, I can't believe we're here. Which might be, I think, if we look back, we'd have to look back. I think this might be the oldest full album we've ever even contemplated reviewing.
Yeah?
Yes, from 1966.
Eef.
Do you know anything about the Artwoods?
Wasn't that was John Lord's band?
Yeah. And I'm sure one or two of these tracks must have appeared on one of those family tree things at some point.
Yeah. I mean, we saw the I'm sorry, we listened to it from the didn't we listen to it, or
I think we did. I think we
or
must
like one of their tracks like this.
We did. I think it was on one
what
of our,
I want. Right.
We listened to, what was it?
Yeah. Take what I want.
That might have been it, which is not on this album. I don't think. I think that was that was a single.
Yeah, because I remember that was because you remember that it was on the Family Tree album, and I remember that it was something that Paul used to like, because he was just like, he goes, it's like mid to late 60s, but it sounded so sleazy. He's like, I take what I want, and what I want is you, babe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, and he got a real kick out of it. So
yeah, it's just like so many songs that start off with bragging about the fact that the girl was 17. Just how many songs like that?
Hey-o.
some guy I follow on Twitter. He's great. He has like a he does like all these little like weird Instagram, sorry, skits.
Oh,
and he did
X?
one where he's like every song from the 60s, and it's like a guy in a white shirt with this pack of smokes rolled up in it, and he's like she was just 13 and blah blah blah, and he's doing this whole thing, and then he's like, because she was 13 years of age, ha.
I think you sent that to us once. Yeah,
it's so creepy.
I mean, it's true. But, maybe they didn't have sodomy laws back then like we do now. I don't know.
Yeah. Things were a little,
but when you were talking about Twitter, though, didn't you mean X?
Oh, God. Yeah. Speaking of that, well, I don't want to get too much into it because I'll get a little hot under the collar. But we're lucky enough to have almost 5,000 followers on whatever you want to call it. But I have not, ever since they changed to the new name of this thing, I have not even looked at it or logged on once.
Really?
So they did a number of things. One was, which I think we talked about this in a recent episode, but one of the things they did is through my auto poster that where we schedule all the posts. I schedule these all they're
Yeah.
scheduled months in
Like
advance.
informational posts, right?
Yeah, all the informational posts. So if you're on Twitter, you may still see these popping up, but you'll only see 3 because they limit you now at 3 per day, because they want you to like pay some exorbitant amount for the on the API. Like the place that's doing our posting would charge them like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to do more than that. So at any rate, we're only posting 3 times a day, so if you're only following us on that medium, you are missing out on some stuff. I'm trying to get the auto posting doesn't work right now on Threads or on Blue Sky if you're on it, but we are on both of those, so eventually there'll be stuff coming up there. But Instagram and Facebook are unfazed, so if you're following us on one of those, we got a lot of followers on both of those, but Twitter was our biggest audience, so it's a shame, but I'm not, I'm kind of done with it too. It's just unfortunately really annoying, and anyone that's paying this blue check fee is getting priority. So you're just seeing a lot of knuckleheads in a lot of cases just kind of floating to the top of every post. And so yeah, so I've not been on it in several days, so by the time this comes out it'll be weeks. And yeah, stay tuned. You'll still get some stuff from there, but I'm probably not going to be seeing anything if you're responding or any of that, so which is a shame because I loved interacting with everybody. But if things change, maybe we'll be back. But since it doesn't cost anything, we'll be sending out 3 posts a day to everybody. And no,
but I mean, we
still
can, if we build up a following on our Instagram and Facebook, that was if people migrate over to there, we could still interact on there. And I'm way more active on those 2 platforms. I mean, I tried to get back into Twitter when we started the show, and I just haven't been great at keeping up with it. I just never was really into it, and now I'm kind of glad because it's gone to shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, unfortunately, really bad.
Hmm.
But I don't know, hopefully who will have to sell it to somebody for like a $40 billion loss at some point, and maybe we can get back onto it. But it seems to be destroying the entire brand and whole platform, which is unfortunate. But hey, who cares? At this point, we're here to talk about the Artwoods. So this was, as you mentioned, John Lord's band. A little backup. In college in 1962, John Lord formed a band called the Don Wilson Quartet, which with somebody named Don Wilson, I would imagine. They played mostly covers. They did clubs. They did weddings. They played at like pubs and stuff like that. After college, John Lord ended up getting a job. One of those jobs that a lot of musicians don't have. They continued on. Oh, actually, where is it? I'm sorry, I'm one line off here. But he wanted to kind of stay in the music thing, so the name changed its band. The band changed its name rather to Red Bloods Bluesicians. Good name.
Okay.
The musicians were Don Wilson on vocals and bass, Derek Griffiths on guitar, John Lord on piano, and Reg Dunnage on drums.
Oh, Reg Dunnage. I like
good
that.
old Reggie Dunnage.
No, Reg.
Reggie.
I like Reg better. Was it Reg or Reggie?
Reg. It was Reg.
I like that. I like the way that's like Reg Dunnage, lead guitar.
Dunnage. A lot of J.
Like we were talking about the other week, Reg Dunnage, Mick Mars,
Powerful name.
Yeah, I like that. That was probably his real name too.
Yeah, or probably Reginald Dunnage.
Well, that was a way to make it cool. It's like, let me take out the Genold and then
Genold. Too many Reginald Dunnage, Reginald Cabbage Dunnage. It's like
Cabbage.
Don't. Mr. Dunnage is my father. Please call me Reg.
I love that.
So at the same time, Art Wood was working with his own group called the Artwood Combo, which eventually broke up. Wilson knew the group and suggested that they kind of join forces. This would have been in early 1964. They continued on as the Artwood Combo for a while before changing their name to the Artwoods. Don Wilson bought a Lowry organ for John. The band was advertised as a great organized combo. I like how back then they're like, hey, this is my combo. Like they hadn't decided that band was what they were going to go with, like everybody. So they said, oh, we're a combo. Hey.
Well, that sounds more like you would do for jazz or something like that, like a jazz trio or combo or something like that. Band is more
combo because it was 2 bands kind of joining together, which we see a lot over the years. Like that's how the episode 6 got together. It's how like all these bands got together over the years. Um, so early on, Don Wilson crashed the group's van and broke his legs. Ugh, he was replaced.
Legs. Ooh.
Yeah, he was replaced on bass by Malcolm Poole from the group The Roadrunners. And then shortly after that, they were offered a recording deal. So that I don't know what happened to Don beyond that, but it's a bad stroke of luck. Reg worked at Heathrow and didn't want to quit his day job, so they looked for a new drummer and found someone that we're familiar with named Keith Hartley. Um, so obviously named Keith, they called him Keith. We've talked about him because his band came up a lot in the Jesus Christ Superstar. Like folks from the Keith Hartley band were always popping up on as being singers and musicians and backup musicians on Jesus Christ Superstar. So there's a lot of connections there. So he was they said the story goes that they found him in the park just holding on to his drums, and they're like, hey, are you a drummer? And then they auditioned him and he got the job. Like, what are the odds? He's just like sitting in the park, probably like homeless, just had all of his drums with him. But a pretty legendary guy in the music scene at that time. So in October 1964, they did their first single, Sweet Mary. It was moderately advertised, and they didn't sell very, very well. The band did a residence at the 100 Club in Oxford Street and Cook's Cleek in West Hampstead, which I think is a great name for a club. Cook's Cleek. And they actually have a live recording from that, which I have a copy of too. So somewhere down the road, maybe we'll do. And I think we might have played like one of the organ solos from that on our like best of John Lord or John Lord in Memoriam or one of those shows back when. So during this time, John, it's rumored that John did the piano tracks for the Kinks. You Really Got Me. It seems like that's mostly been debunked at this point, but he was there, and there's a lot of evidence that he played on several other songs on that album, but it seems likely that he didn't play on that song, although some people that still say he did.
Wow,
And then
that would be interesting.
John Lord also was that?
It would be interesting if he did. You really got me.
It's a great story. Yeah. Instead, it's just bling, 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 bling. And I think we've talked about this before. Like, I mean, I could have been the session keyboardist for that song.
Very true.
But anyway, during this time, John Lord sat in with Bo Diddley at the 100 Club, and Bo Diddley was interested in recording with the band. He was very complimentary of the band. The artist Little Walter said this of the group. He said, "I thought white boys couldn't play the blues, but they were playing the hell out of the music." So reflection added by me.
Little Walter, a little more complimentary than Gary Moore was to Glenn Hughes.
They are not playing the hell. This is blues. This is not blues. They had a second single, "Oh My Love." Unfortunately, it did about as well as the first, so it didn't get them too much. In 1965, they started touring with PJ Proby on 2 tours. And when Mike Vernon at Decca heard their earlier studio recordings, he proposed that they use Decca's studio and record with them. They recorded another single, "I Take What I Want," which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Came out in May of '66, and it made it into the top 30. So they went to Poland and Paris, and John used his earnings at that point to purchase his first Hammond on hire purchase, which I had to look up, which I suspected, but it's basically kind of like rent to own, not quite layaway, but just kind of a payment installment plan. And then I read this is where he cut the organ in half to make it easier to move around, this organ that he doesn't fully paid for. And I thought, oh my God, that's kind of crazy that he just cut it in half. And I always imagined when I heard that story that he cut the organ in half, like he just grabbed a saw and did it all rough. But apparently this was a service that they offered. Like you could pay £60, they'd cut the organ in half, and it made it easier to transport. You could put it into the back of a van where you couldn't put a full tall Hammond in the back of the van. And then they had it all connected, so when you join the 2 sections together, all the connections went through, and you could actually like rig it up to electric and all that. So it was actually something that they offered. So during this time, John Lord became a little more critical, a little more analytical when in regards to his playing. Of this, he said, "I realized I was just playing Jimmy Smith cliches most of the time, like 1,000 others. It occurred to me that I could use some of my classic knowledge. I tried to fit Bach fugues into what we were playing, not note for note, but just getting the feel of it. I think we were one of the first groups to use chunks of classical music as an introduction for songs. We used Tchaikovsky and as an intro to Sam Cooke's Shake." So that's kind of the history, a little background about the band. And with that, we get into the members. We have Malcolm Poole, who I reached out to because I found his contact, but I never heard anything back, unfortunately, because I was trying to get an answer to something. Um, Keith Hartley on drums. Of course, Keith was the replacement for Ringo Starr in Rory Storm and the Hurricanes when Ringo joined the Beatles. He, like I said, several members of the band went on to be involved with Jesus Christ Superstar product. And Keith Hartley, the Keith Hartley band was the first British band to play at Woodstock. On guitar, Derek Griffiths. He did the London sessions with Chuck Berry, and he was part of the 69. The 1997 European tour of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So, kind of interesting. John Lord, I don't think we need to say much about him. And then Art Wood, older brother of Ron Wood of the Faces and Rolling Stones. So a rich pedigree there. And then on technical, we've got engineer John Maxwith, producer Mike Vernon, and then the album booklet was printed by Rob Stace. So speaking of the album art, let me get it up on the screen for you. And this is the album cover of the Artwoods Art Gallery. John, what do you think?
Very 60s.
Yeah, groovy.
Actually, I think in one of our really early episodes, or maybe the one where we had heard the song from them, you would pull this up before because it looks really familiar. Mm-hmm. Who is John Lord all the way in the back with the sunglasses, looking like he's Weekend at Bernie's over there?
He does. Somebody's propping him up.
Yeah, this is a very I think it's a very 60s but very cool looking album because it gives you that kind of feel that you don't get anymore from a band. This is just like you got like 5 guys just crowded into this like garage or shed or something, just all huddled together, just making music.
And it's like the first time I saw this, I was just like, wow, this is when I was playing in bands and we were practicing, this is what it looked like.
Yeah.
A dirty, smoky old attic or basement, just crammed in there in a really uncomfortable way, too close together. Everybody smoking. Just there's like old doors and like panels of wood just like leaning against the wall in the back. I mean, it's just a dump,
an exposed pipe
dump that they're playing in. And it's funny, they played live. They could have used like a live picture of them, but they chose this picture of them like in this really raw, dirty practice space.
Yeah, but I mean, I think pretty cool. I think the guy smiling over here looks just like Ritchie.
I thought he looked like Noel Gallagher.
Yeah.
Except he's smiling.
Yeah. The guy playing the drums with the cigarette sticking out, if you look really quick, it kind of looks like a profile of Pete Townsend.
Oh yeah, good call.
Then we got, Weekend at Bernie's over there, John Lord.
Was he wearing like a, I don't know if it's just the glare. I got a different picture of this too, that maybe I could pull up, but
looks like he's wearing like a striped
scarf or something.
Like like that, or a striped hoodie or something. Like, it's hard to tell. And he also has no mustache, so it's like impossible to tell that it's him.
Yeah, these records get like a $300, $400.
I bet.
Find one. They're not cheap.
And then you got like the guy next to him on the left looks kind of like bizarro George Harrison.
Oh yeah, I can see that. That's Malcolm Poole.
Yeah, and then the singer, I don't think he reminds me of anybody.
Kind of reminds me of Michael Showalter, like a young Michael Showalter.
Okay. But yeah, so I would say just a very cool, gritty looking 60s album cover. I think what they were going for was pretty cool. Like I kind of embodies what a lot of us like about rock and roll, which is, like you said, that dingy basement practice space, not the kind of glitzy, overblown thing that when musicians get really big, all of a sudden it's like not about that anymore. So
yeah, you gotta kind of respect the fact that they didn't try to sugarcoat it. Like this is just very real. Anybody that's been in a band can relate especially as a young person, can relate to this
Oh yeah.
this situation they're in. You know, like I'm in this studio doing a crummy little podcast, and this is like my surroundings are 1,000 times better than any place I ever practiced, whether it was Dan's basement or Scott and Dave's basement or
Mm-hmm.
my basement. It was always some dumpy place that was, you know, concrete floor or just creaky wooden floor. You got the slanted ceiling, you know, this old like this looks like some sort of like heating vent or exhaust vent that's just hanging up by rope from the 2x4s. Just
There is something about that though, when you're in that kind of atmosphere as like a young band or a struggling musician, that's just kind of like, yeah, really badass.
yeah,
It's really cool.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I always enjoyed that. I always enjoyed being in non-glamorous practice spaces
it's good. Yeah, it's a good thing you did because we didn't have many other
because that's all we
options.
had.
Actually, one of the best places we ever played was your basement because it was like finished basement. You know, it
Oh,
was
that's
carpeted.
true.
There was a pool table. There was a TV. Um, Even though
Yeah.
the Beejans had a really nice house, like their basement was just a concrete floor. It was not very, you know, you had a one little patch of rug that you could put on the drum set so it doesn't slide around, but that was about all you had.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the front album cover. Then you've got the kind of the Decca front and back labels there, and then here's the back of the album. So this is the interesting thing, and this is what I'd written. This is what I had. Gotta bring this over here because it's hard to read this sometimes. This is what I'd reach out to Malcolm Poole about for clarification, because this whole thing is reportedly written by somebody named Pontius Elbows, which I suspect is not a real name, but I
Really?
can't find any information about, like, I mean, obviously it's not a real person. If it is, then that would be the best possible story, but yeah, I can't find any explanation as to what, if that was in reference to anything, or if they were just being. I talked to Jerry Bloom about it. He said he thinks they were just, you know, being random boneheads and just making up that name for a laugh, which
Oh
is
yeah. I
quite
mean,
possible. But
yeah, I mean, we would do that. We would do that shit all the time.
oh yeah,
Like we'd make up people and everything, and you know, put them on the quote unquote album cover, you know, just to be funny.
yeah, exactly. But this one is extremely British, so I'll see how much I can get through of it. But well known in pessimistic cycles are the highly fed but stumped off Artwoods, who as a part-time hobby play music and other scintillating message. They are five in all, or Tito, but often appear as a hero of hippopotami in Denmark streak, where the well-known southern music recording studio, and some of this is like kind of ripped so I can't read it, especially in the wet season, many times as the blah blah blah. So yeah, so it's just them going off and being completely silly. um I don't know that this answers it. It ends with, let us all then be as one, two or frogs and loon. I don't even know what the hell they're talking about, so it would make sense that they would use this Pontius Elbows name for this bunch of nonsense that's on the back here. But yeah, if you're interested, we'll have this in the show notes. You can read for yourself, and if you have any theories as to what the Pontius Elbows thing means, I suspect nothing. Just let us know. So that's the album art, and yeah, with that, I think we're ready to get into the tracks after we thank our next level of patrons. So speaking of which, coming in at the $7.77 keep it warm rat tier, trying to do too many things at once, Michael Vader. At the $6.99 new nice price tier, we have Spike the Rock Cat and Sugar Tea. At the episode $6.66 tier, we have Steve Coldwell, Arthur Smith, getting support from the patron Arthur Smith. We have Anton Glaving and Charles Meadows. At the $6.65 almost evil tier, Kenny Wymore and Michael Bagford. At the $5.99 the nice price tier, Robert Smith, Peter from Illinois, and Carl Helberg. At the 60 kroner Scandinavian Nights tier, we have where am I? Zwapper the Electric Alchemist and Newt Morton Johansson. At the $5.55 What's Going On Here tier, we have Richard Fusey. At the $5 money lender tier, John Convery, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Jesper Elman, Alexei the Perfect Stranger Slepikov, James North, Mark Hodgetts, Kev Roberts, Percival Frequency, Scott Zern, Cynthia Doobie, Raf Kath, and Coyote Bongwater. All right, so thank you to all of you for your generous support of the Deep Purple podcast. So here we go. We are ready to get into the tracks here. There's 12 tracks, but this is an album from the 60s, so they're, for the most part, short, in the 2 to 3 minute range, most of them. So we should be able to get through these in a reasonable amount of time. Whereas the 12 tracks on the 12 tracks here are probably 30 minutes, and the 12 tracks on the blues album were like 65 minutes or something. Yeah. So it's a very of its time 60s album, which we know is not necessarily your wheelhouse, but this is, or mine, but this is a pivotal album in the history here. So we're ready to get into it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it brings.
All right. First track up is called Can You Hear Me? I know there's mono versions of this, but it's very hand in the two. What are they saying? It sounds like there's a "Can you hear me?" and they were going "Yet," but I don't think that's right. Come to my house, we're gonna have. So this guy is kind of sleazy, right?
Yeah, we already knew that.
I gotta look up some lyrics. Here's Mr. Ward.
Wow, you can tell it's him.
Yeah, it's great. Can you hear me? Obviously, it doesn't have the distortion, but has the feel.
But I mean, you could just tell by the way he's playing that it's him. It's very cool to hear. Very early John Lord.
According to the lyrics, it's "Can you hear me?" Yeah. And this this song is written by Alan Toussaint. He's already had more solos than he had on House of Blue Light. He's going nuts in the background. Worth mentioning at this point that every song on this is a cover.
Oh, is it?
Yep. Which is pretty...
What are they covers of?
Typical at the time. Well, this one is Alan Toussaint.
But I mean, was it like songs of the time, or like blues standards, or?
It's a good question.
Or songs from like 20 years before, so they're like songs from like the 40s, or?
Well, this one is Alan Toussaint. It looks like... see if I can find it. But I didn't know if it was... We had there's a Toussaint Beaudry, who's kind of the Beaudry that came over from France and spawned all of us lower Beaudrys, as the history goes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see when this came out from Mr. Toussaint. I can't find anything on his Wikipedia about it. But anyway, what do you think of Can You Hear Me?
Very creative lyrics. No, but
Can you hear me? Yeah.
I would I think it's pretty cool, but you know, I'll give it a 2.5, like, you know, middle of the road. I mean, I'm trying not to. I know you said, oh, it's not really your wheelhouse, so I'm trying not to listen to it like, okay, here we go, like late 60s album, everything's getting a low score. Like, you know,
Hmm.
I'm trying to listen to it with open ears. But I do like that it's you know, it kind of got that blues based thing that like that's one thing that I do like a lot about a lot of the kind of 60s rock is that it was very blues based, but not in a you know, not in really like a kind of a the same way that it got later on, like when say like the Glenn Hughes album, like the early 90s, when people started to get like quote unquote bluesy, like this felt more authentic, you know,
Yeah.
like these guys were trying to be in touch with their roots and they're trying something different because rock and roll was really kind of newer at the time. And you know, you got the singer who's doing that kind of you know, they all have that similar um kind of voice, you know, that kind of Yardbirds lead singer voice, you know, where it's just sounds like just like a guy singing. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
nothing really you know, you haven't gotten into like Ian Gillan, Robert Plant, people like that quite yet, hadn't come around. So you know, it's you know, except for the addition of John Lord, that we know, you know, he's in there. It's really nothing groundbreaking about it. But yeah, so far so good. We get to hear an early John Lord solo, which was really cool.
Yeah. Um, I will give it a 2.5 as well. It's hard rating stuff like this. You feel like you almost have to rate it on a curve because it's, this is early stuff in somebody's career. Um, and this is not 100% fully formed. It was probably done very quickly, all that sort of stuff that we've talked about a million times. But yeah, it is that. I can see what you're saying. It sounds a little more authentically bluesy, whereas 20, 30 years later, people would be doing it a little,
Mm-hmm.
almost like it's almost like a more of a wink to the camera sort of thing when they're doing a or just like the don't.
Well, or maybe I like that wink to the camera. I was thinking more like watered down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
Because
like
there
we
were,
talked about ad nauseum with the Glenn Hughes blues thing. It was just kind of like, we're doing the blues. The album's called blues, and when you have to kind of like
yeah.
tell people the genre in advance, it feels a little forced.
Well, I just feel like when you have kind of advances like in or when you had like subgenres around, like you'd had synth pop and hair metal and you know, keyboards and all that kind of technology had taken off to make those really excuse me, like 80s, you know, kind of sounds, or more like kind of futuristic type of sounds. Or, you know, people were kind of getting more and more kind of like overblown with the effects and the sounds and everything. It was almost like the focus was off of the you know, the kind of the roots of the music itself, and just kind of being like, oh well, we know, like, I'm a musician, I know the blues scale, I know dun 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 dun, so I'm gonna do that. Whereas, like, you know, these guys were closer to it. I mean, when they were, you know, they were born like, you know, in the 40s, so you know, they grew up in the 50s and 60s with like you know, you know, these blues musicians that everybody was influenced by, like actually being on the scene, and like guys like Elvis coming out and kind of influencing them in a more of a stripped down way. So that's why I think it, even if there are like 100 copycat bands like this, it still sounds like it's more, you know, authentic, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So it was originally recorded by Lee Dorsey and released in 1965. So this would have been right after that. It probably had just come out. And that's kind of the funny thing that we've talked about before too, is like a song will come out and then somebody will like release a cover of it like a month later, and
Yeah, it's so weird.
it seems weird these days. And every so often it will happen these days, but it just doesn't. It's not anywhere near as common as it was there to just be like, oh yeah, me too. I'm putting that song out too.
Oh
And I
yeah, me
think it
too.
it comes from that like that tradition of there being songwriters and artists performers, and I think the the idea of the performers being the songwriters didn't really become the norm, I don't think, until the Beatles. Because even the Beatles on their first few albums had tons of covers, and then
Mhm.
eventually, but they wrote their own songs, and then it became kind of understood that bands would do that. Yeah, they might do some covers, they might have some help with the songwriting, but they're not going to just put out other people's songs. People like
Mhm.
Sinatra and stuff always did it, but I think that was maybe like this was at the dividing line when that was happening. So okay, the next track up is a song called Down in the Valley.
Down in the valley,
In case you didn't believe me.
Jeez.
the valley's so low. Hang your head over your shoulder, girl.
Goyle.
You can hear the fall wind blow. You can hear the wind blow.
It's weird hearing him do all those Lord-isms on the organ, but it's just such a more mellow tone to it before they started distorting it.
In the valley,
Yeah.
the valley's
Nice to hear him so present in the song, though.
Have you ever been lonely? You ever been sad? You ever really
This has a good groove to it.
I like the groove.
That didn't want you so bad.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with John Lord.
Yeah, I mean, nice.
Down in the valley's so low, where you held your love so tight, you can never let her go. Well, it was down, 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 down,
Apparently,
down.
this was
The
first
valley's so low.
released by Solomon Burke, the album King of Fools.
So tight,
Hmm.
you'll never let her go.
That bend didn't quite like. It was almost like went into like dog whistle territory. You couldn't hear it anymore.
Yeah.
Gotta go down deep. We can.
Burt Burns and Solomon Burke. So Burke would have been the performer. Oh, and Otis Redding did a version in 1965, so that must have gotten it some popularity.
I feel like this was a very John Lord inspired ending.
Yeah.
Like the way they ended that song out sounded a lot like how they ended a lot of the early Deep Purple songs. So I feel like Lord might have been influential in that. Like, hey guys, we should do the whole dance, dance,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, dance. Yeah.
All right, what do you think about this one?
I'll give Down in the Valley a 3. I thought that was pretty good. It had a good groove to it. You got some John Lord in the verses there. I really think that he had influence on how they ended that song. But yeah, it had a cool groove to it, and like I said, I like hearing the early stuff from the members of Deep Purple where they're actually represented, where you could just be like, oh yeah, I can tell that's him, rather than it's like, oh, he's on it, but there's like nothing of like the musician that I know. And like these days, like, I mean, I'm not expecting him to sound like, he did on like Flight of the Rat, but I mean, you know, but it's cool to hear them like in the early stages and like, one of, his first bands.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's very much him, though. I also give it a 3. I think it's got a really good groove to it. I think yeah, it gives you a great window into what he would be getting into later on. But really, and it's great that he's like kind of he's the premier soloist in this band, and for good reason. Obviously, he's um, musicianship wise probably uh, head and shoulders above the others. Even though a lot of the other guys went on to do great stuff too, but he seems like it's no mistake that he's the name that was the big name out of this group, and Keith Hartley, of course. Okay, next track up is Things Get Better. Here we go.
You can bring joy I never had.
Another song just over 2 minutes here.
Be right here, as long as it lasts, and that's why things get better, baby.
It's really cool, but man, the guitar, it sounds like somebody's just like plugging something into an outlet and it's like it's buzzing like it
Probably was.
just has this really just like, I mean, I know that was the sound of the day and the recording of the day, but that distorted guitar just has like no balls. It just sounds like a bee. It's like
I think this is the early. This would have been the early days where they were still achieving that sound by like ripping up the speakers.
yeah.
This song was written by Eddie Floyd, Steve Cropper, and Wayne Jackson. And Steve Cropper was actually on an episode of T-Bone's Farm Pets. But T-Bone would actually have a lot of background on the song. He's like a walking Wikipedia of music. Kind of a Beatlesy ending there. All right, Things Get Better by the legendary Floyd Cropper. Wait, Floyd Cropper Jackson. Yes, Wayne Jackson. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, I think things are getting better. I think I'll give that one I think I'll give that one a 3.
All right.
I like the energy of the song, like during the verses. I mean, it was interesting. It's interesting to hear because, like I said, I know that it was during that kind of turning point where like they were trying to make the guitars really distorted and heavy, but man, it was just, I don't want to say it was bad. It was just like, it was interesting to hear it try and be distorted, but it was like, you know, just this kind of one dimensional. And then just to think about how guitars would sound in like another couple of years. Right. So,
Right.
kind of wild, but yeah, I thought it had a good groove and a good energy to it. The song as a whole.
This song was first recorded and released by Eddie Floyd in 1966, so the same year that this came out.
Mhm.
So, again, they were doing these covers really quickly after because this came out the same year. So there you go. Next one is Walk on the Wild Side. I do not believe this is a Lou Reed or Velvet Underground or whatever cover. But here we go. Walk on the Wild Side. This is a atypically long song for this era.
Wow.
Yeah, 5.5 minutes.
You promised me 2-minute long songs.
Well, I think the rest of them are pretty much more on the shorter side. This one was written by Elmer Bernstein and Mac David.
An Elmer Bernstein film composer.
Yeah, didn't he do like
Ghostbusters?
did he do Ghostbusters? He did Psycho, didn't he?
I think.
No, that was somebody else.
What, Psycho? No,
Yeah.
Psycho was Bernard Herrmann.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, he did do Ghostbusters, you're right. And the Blues Brothers trading place. It's funny, he started off with the Ten Commandments, the Magnificent Seven, the Great Escape, and then ended with Animal House, Blues Brothers, Trading Places, and Ghostbusters. He went from like the big dramatic blockbuster to like the comedy blockbuster later on.
Yeah.
Got a nice groove to it. This sounds like soundtrack music, you know? This was arranged by Oliver Nelson, jazz saxophonist. This was the title track, of the soundtrack for the movie Walk on the Wild Side. It was the film's opening and closing credits. Interesting that they'd have like a long instrumental on this first side of the album. Oh my god, are they doing the album drum solo? Okay, no.
Whew. Thank goodness.
They're kind of
Just right into a
John
John
Lord
Lord solo. Yeah.
to play.
That's acceptable. That's okay.
They got a great energy to them. I think the production on this sounds like the production on albums around this time, which is not to say not that great. But from what I read about this band, the live or the recorded stuff did a hard job capturing what they did live. But I'd say Artwood had a lot of energy in his singing, and the whole band sounds pretty energetic. Of course, John Lord would have been like 25 when this came out.
So Tom, still killing it. Still killing it in the early days.
Oh, that's such a deep purple thing he's doing there. Rattle the tubes. Hard match. Damn. Oh, tamperine's coming back in.
I'm getting the sleigh bells.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. Sleigh bells. sleigh bell player is uncredited. It's funny that this band is not called like the John Lord Woods. maybe because that's a terrible name, but it's like John Lord is clear. If Artwood is not the guy writing the songs, I mean, I get that he's the singer, but this seems to be John Lord's. Seems to be the head of this band quite clearly from a musical standpoint. All right, things get better. What do you think?
Is it thing? Did I give it a? Is this things get better?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, sorry. It's a walk on the wild side.
Okay, because I was going to say I already rated that. All right, wild side.
My rating got erased there. So
okay, so yeah, I'll give this one a 3.5.
All right.
I mean, yeah, great example of some early John Lord, and just trying to listening to him doing what he did a few years later, but with like less power behind it, was just really interesting, especially that part where he was like going up, and we would have heard like,
just like putting his palm on the keys and going, just like slowly dragging his
yeah,
palm across the
it's
keys,
like, you know what he was going for, but they didn't have the equipment or the technique for it to sound like he probably wanted it to. And even, but I like, after that I came to appreciate it for what it was, you know what I mean? Because especially when the guitar came in after that, it was like ding 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 ding, it was like everything is just so so wimpy sounding.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean, I'm like, but not comparing it to what we know is going to come a few years later with everybody sounding that way. It's like, I get what they were trying to do, and for that time it was probably really heavy.
Right, and unless you were the Beatles or the Rolling Stones in 1966, you're not getting, your production is probably not going to be quite at this level. They just didn't have the studio time probably to even do it. They plugged everything in and probably did everything live.
But you can hear the passion, you can hear the energy from these youthful musicians.
Yep, absolutely. I will also give it a 3.5. I think it's really interesting. I liked how at the end of that thing where he's going, and he also did like this big chromatic run, like he did one of those, and that would be clearly the point where he would tip the thing back and let the tubes rattle, and he didn't quite have that in his arsenal. So you could hear, I don't know if it was done after the fact or at the time, but it sounded like they just turned up the reverb at the end, and it was like, and you heard this kind of like, it sounded like a spring reverb or something, just where everything was kind of rattling around again.
Yeah.
So he's like, he knew it was coming to this big climax. He didn't quite know how to achieve that big sound at the end the way that he would years later. But yeah, really interesting. I think just as a historical artifact alone, this is really, really interesting to listen to. Okay, the next track up is called I Keep Forgetting.
Keep forgetting you don't love me no more.
Almost every song starts with
I keep forgetting
title.
You don't want me no more. I keep forgetting that you told me.
And this is a Lieber Stoller classic.
But my stupid old feet just head for your street like they've done so many times before. And this stubborn old fist on the end of my wrist keep knocking on your front door. I keep forgetting you don't love me no more. I keep forgetting you don't want me no more.
So this was first released by Chuck Jackson in 1962.
Those heartbreaking lies that you say. Though I know in my heart we're drifting apart, I can't believe our love is dead.
There's a Gillan song on Chirkazoo. This part, that's reminding me of it. I can't think of it because it's playing. But
I keep forgetting you don't love me no more. I keep forgetting you don't love me no more.
How do you forget?
I keep forgetting you don't love me no more.
I just comes back to the fact that even though these songs are all written by different people, Artwood is setting himself up as a creep.
Though I know in my
Ah! Doorbell rings. Bing bong, you open it up. Ah, it's you again! Oh, I keep forgetting you don't love me anymore. It's like, get out of here. This album should have been called Restraining Order.
The Artwoods restraining order.
I don't think they had those in 1966.
I keep forgetting you don't love me no more.
Isn't that muted guitar that
you don't love me no more. I keep forgetting
Really weird
you
sound.
don't love me no more.
Kind of a ominous ending there. Or it's like being sarcastic. Oh, I keep forgetting you don't love me no more. Okay, hey, I'm not causing any trouble. All right, what do you think of I Keep Forgetting?
Kind of funny. 2.5. Kind of silly. Yeah, there really wasn't too much to this. Yeah, but it was silly.
I got to listen to Cher Kazoo tonight so I can figure out what Cher Kazoo song I'm thinking of that this sounds like before Scott Haskin can email me and tell me or text me or whatever. He's always on top of that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really I don't know. I really like this one. I'm going to give it a 3. It's our first divergence, not a huge one, but I like it. It's like you can see what they're going for with this, and you know, we talk about the what ifs a lot, but what if they had a little more money, a little more time in the studio to make this thing really pop? I mean, and then of course the age-old question, what if they wrote their own material? That would have been really interesting to hear. But here we go. Last song on side 1. Keep Looking. We got 2 like White Snake style. Forgetting and Looking. Like church organ right now.
I'm so happy to be here today.
Sounds like church.
For all-
John's
all of
rolling
you
his
that are
eyes.
searching for the answer to your problem in life. If you're ready right now, we're going to solve it. And this is all you've got to do.
Keep looking till you find it. When you find
Took a turn.
it, don't quit it. Keep looking.
This is another
Okay.
one by Solomon Burke.
When you get it, don't lose it. Looking for some money to work. Keep looking till you find it. When you find it, don't quit it. Keep
John Lord Stamp is all over this one.
Yep.
when you get it.
Percussive.
Don't lose it. Looking for some love to work. Keep looking till you find it. When you find it, don't quit it. When you get it, don't lose it. There's a whole lot of love in life that you can get, but you just come a lovely with a fat ball of boom lamb. A Sam a lamb. Keep
Sam a Lamb.
till you find it.
This is groovy. This is like
Don't quit it. Keep
the
looking.
dancer in the cage, you know, with the flowers painted on their torso.
Don't lose it. You're looking for a sweetheart to work. Keep looking till you find
Like
it.
that guitar back there. Dong, 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 dong.
Looking.
Kind of a droning song, but it works.
Everywhere. There's a whole lot of love in life that you can get, but you just come a lovely with a fat ball of boom lamb. The Sam a lamb. Keep looking.
Kind of sounds a little bit like Rod Evans when he's getting excited.
Find it. Don't quit it.
Sam
Oh,
Lamb.
here it comes.
You get it. When you get it, don't lose it. Looking everywhere. Looking everywhere. Keep looking. 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 With a fat band of boom lamb. The Sam lamb. Keep looking.
All right, John Alon, what do you think of that one?
I'll actually give it a 3 after that weird opening.
Yeah, the opening was not promising.
Yeah.
Dearly beloved. I mean, Prince can get away with that, but
not Artwood.
not Artwood.
But yeah, there was a lot of good. I gotta say, like, John Lord is elevating this album. He's
the star.
Yeah, he's it's the John Lords.
Yep. The John Lords featuring John Lord.
Mm-hmm.
John Lord's the John Lord featuring John Lord. Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. I'll give it a 3 as well. I think it was like once it got into the groovy 60s,
yeah,
cage dancer part, I really liked it. But yeah, the beginning 30 seconds I think could have quite easily been stripped out.
Cage dancer. Yeah, you could have done without that intro.
Goldie Hawn with a suck it to me. All right. The next track, so we're going to flip this disc over, this record over, and the next track on the first track on side 2 is One More Heartache. Again, this is a situation where it's like that could be like a real in-your-face organ riff, but it does sound wimpy. First recorded by Marvin Gaye, Motown, 1966. It was written by the Miracles members Bobby Rogers, Marv Tarpon, Pete Moore, Ronnie White, and a gentleman named Smokey Robinson. Oh, it's... he said a house you built of toothpaste, but he said toothpicks.
Toothpaste?
I know, it's like not very... Even the Three Little Pigs didn't try that one. A lot of these songs, the earliest song so far was released in 1962. But most of them were released earlier the same year. It's almost like they were just like, hey, what's on the radio now? Let's learn these songs.
So weird.
Oh, I like this. This groove. I really like that little middle part. That was really, really nice. That's another one that reminds me of something on Cherokazoo. I guess Gillan was probably... I mean, it would make sense that Gillan and Lord were listening to a lot of the same music at this time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do you think of One More Heartache?
I mean, my sheet closed again. Son of a bitch. All right. Yeah, I'll give that a 2.5.
All right.
It was okay. I mean, stuff is not bad. it's not terribly boring either, you know. I think it's somewhere in between so far. So not maybe one of the better 60s things that we've listened to.
Yeah, you got to figure this album's almost 60 years old. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's hard for almost anything that old to hold up this long, but I'll give it a 3. I really liked it. I love that middle part. I love they just cranked up reverb on the vocals, even though it's kind of like I don't know, empirically bad. You don't want to do that, but it makes it sound so much of that time, like that just overdriven reverb. Like it's like one of those things, like if you're a producer and you really know your craft, you can break the rules, but this sounds like one of those situations where it's like they didn't really know they weren't supposed to do that. You could probably make it work if you knew you weren't supposed to do that, but you did it anyway, but they're like, didn't know you're supposed to do that and did it. That's kind of the feeling I get. But anyway, 3 from me. The next track up is a song called Work, Work, Work. And this one was written by someone named Naomi Neville. And Naomi Neville is actually a pseudonym for Alan Toussaint. His mother's maiden name. So if he has online banking, he could probably crack into it.
I can't find nothing that will suit me right. A little spot of labor, not trying to share. But everything I find seems too much hard work. I say, work, what you say, boy? Work. You talk to me now. Somebody who needs somebody, wants somebody to love. You're talking about love.
Right.
Wow, you got a first proper guitar solo. Pretty good.
I like it.
I need a little spending check every
I like the bass line.
now and then. I ain't seen a quarter since who knows when.
And the
I
guitar
asked
kind of
all my
mimicking.
friends if they could spare a little cash, but all they ever do is stand around talking trash about work.
Talking trash. Is that an expression of the 60s?
It is now.
You talk to me now. Hey. Does anybody here know somebody who needs somebody, wants somebody to love?
I would say this song is a little tedious.
Yeah.
Work, love.
What was that song like a few years ago? Work.
Talking to me.
I don't know that one. I just know Work by the
To me, boy.
from Hamilton.
You better work. I don't know, it's some hip hop thing.
I don't know, these damn kids and their hippity hop music.
Hippity hop.
Must be that Snoopy dog that did this one. All right, John, what do you think of Work?
2.5.
All right, you're holding pretty steady there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. A little tedious. Although I have to say, I'm for 1966, pretty impressed with the guitar solo.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was holding up there with other guitar greats of that time, I would say.
Or guitar players.
Not greats.
Well, maybe. I mean, it was definitely
yeah,
it was a
maybe it's
standout.
not exactly Jeff Beck, I guess.
No, but I would say like it was it was maybe a tone or a type of solo I wasn't expecting to hear
yeah.
on this album.
And
Anyways,
if he had better equipment and mics and production, it could have really even. I'm sure it was just a one take. They all did it live, so pretty impressive. I will give this one a 2. It kind of just work a little. I got a little tired of it. Not my favorite. Not my favorite song ever. But let's see if the next song is my favorite song ever. This one is called "Be My Lady." Very upbeat. I like it. This is another one written by Steve Cropper, along with Jackson Jones and Dunn. Must be an instrumental. Ah, it's Booker T and the MGs, of course. I've heard this before. This is off of I don't know. I can't think of the name of the album. I know Paul had this album and we would listen to it. Written by Booker T. Jones, Steve Cropper, Donald Duck Dunn, and Al Jackson.
Ooh, Duck Dunn.
We've heard of
Did he
Duck
work with
Dowell,
Eric
now we got
Clapton?
Duck Dunn. What's that?
Did he work with Eric Clapton?
Let's see. Donald Duck Dunn. American bassist, songwriter, and producer. Member of the Marqués. I don't see Eric Clapton, but it's quite possible he did.
Keep looking.
He's got 916 credits, so if only the song was a little longer. Another great solo. He was the bassist for Eric Clapton for Clapton's appearance at Live Aid in 1985.
Hey,
Don also played himself in the Blues Brothers in 1980. He's ranked number 40 on Bass Player Magazine's list of 100 greatest bass players of all time. Not too shabby. Nice. Another grooving instrumental, a little shorter than the last one. What do you think of Be My Lady?
I'll give that one a 2.5.
John, you're so predictable.
Fine, 4. No, 2.5.
I'll give it a 3. I like the grooving, so I think this album has a vibe. It's one of those ones you can, again, it's not going to be at the top of anybody's best albums of all time list, but you know, you put this on in the background to achieve that kind of 60s vibe. And I think the best thing about it is, like, you could put this on to have it be like, I want the feel of the 60s, but I don't want it to be like all the hits everybody knows and all the versions everybody knows, and people to go, you know, people just be like, oh, this has a 60s sound to it, but I'm not quite putting my finger on what any of it actually is. So that's what I would choose to play it for. I don't know what situation would require that, but that's what I would use it for. All right. So it's funny that other song I keep forgetting when I was Googling it. I just came up with the Michael McDonald version kept coming up. I keep forgetting that I'm the same again. Like I was like I couldn't get past that. It was hard looking at stuff. Okay, the next track up is If You Gotta Make a Fool of Somebody. I don't know why you would have to, but if you have to, listen up. There's instructions here. This one was written by Rudy Clark. This was first recorded by James McBride in 1961, so our earliest song. Malcolm McLuhan's bass on this. I don't know, like he might just be staying true to the originals, but good bass playing. Solo on almost every song, maybe every song.
Yeah, one way or another. Got some kind of feature.
Mid '80s Deep Purple should have used that same tactic.
Yeah.
Might. Nice little funny little ending. All right, John, do you have to make a fool of someone?
Well, me, because I'm going to say 2.5 again.
You're acting a damn fool, John.
I mean,
yeah, it is
yeah.
what it is. It's not,
it is what it is. It's not interesting at this point. I'm just like, it's songs. Nothing's really sticking out now. So I think we're getting a little fatigue here. I'm glad these are all very short.
It'd be great if you did a whole album and you're like, not really into this album, but I got to release it from my contract. Like, what should we call it? Songs. The Artwoods songs.
Yeah, they're songs.
Yeah, I was as inspired by the album title as I was by the work. Yeah, 2.5 for me as well. Nothing to write home about. Next track up, Stop and Think It Over. Tasty guitar. Almost sounds like it's double tracked, but I don't think that would.
I'm so tired of living the life of a fool. I'm so
Now this is the blues.
Of breaking
Hell yeah.
mother's rule.
No, this is the blues. Nate Boudry.
Abraham Lincoln. It was first released by James Crawford in 1965, written by Nat Jones. Wow.
In my past, I wanna tell you now, baby, I don't think it can last. I'm gonna stop. Think it over.
Got kind of like the.
Yeah.
So Nat Jones was Nathaniel Leon Jones, an American saxophonist. He did play the organ on I Feel Good. He was worked with James Brown. And interestingly, there was a drummer for James Brown named Nate Jones, so that must have been Nathaniel Jones and Nate Jones in the same band.
Uh-oh.
Hilarity must have ensued. It reminds me of that Nate Bargatze bit. Have you ever seen his stand-up?
Yeah, he's good.
He's talking about at the airport, where he's like, it's like your name on your license says Nathan, but it's Nathaniel on your boarding pass. And he's like, it's not the same. He's like, yeah, but it's kind of the same. He's like, I didn't want to tell this guy that most people call me Nate. It would just blow his mind. It's just, I'm getting just vibes of Mistreated on this one. Like the dynamics of it, the bluesiness of it, the stops, that guitar in the beginning, his screaming, the way he's got a lot of passion in the vocals. Oh, he said stop and it stopped. Kind of caught me off guard there.
Oh, all right.
You had stop and it stopped.
Was
What
that
do you
it?
think of Stop and Think It Over?
Let me stop and think this over. You know, I'm gonna have to give this a 3.5 because one thing that I noticed is like you had those dynamics and you had the passionate singing, but if you were listening, it was dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it was. It totally
Right?
was.
But
Yep,
I mean, you didn't hear that.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't hear that unless you're looking for it. That is much closer to the blues. You know, that's what it's all like. When you said like this is the blues, it's just like, I know you were saying it, it's just like, yeah, like if you want to call something that, like, this is the closest thing to it that like a bunch of white guys could be doing.
Yeah.
And like sound like authentic. So yeah, this one was good. This one was a good lazy blues song.
Yeah, it wasn't. I wouldn't even say it's lazy. I think it's an energetic, hard-working blues song. I'm
All right.
giving it a 3.5. I toy with almost giving it a 4. Really like it. Just like the energy and the passion behind it. Just really, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I mean, I think these guys had so much potential. And, you know, obviously this is the only album they ever put out. So, which leads us to the album closer, Don't Cry No More.
You don't cry no more. Well, I'm begging you. You don't cry no more, girl. I say I'm begging you. Well, every tear you shed, show me that your love is true. You don't cry no more. Well, I'm telling you.
That's some bad candy.
You don't cry no more, girl. I say I'm telling
I know
you.
it's past its date, but ugh.
Well, every
Sorry
tear
about
you shed, show me that your love is true.
I like this part. So far, I'm leaning towards they should have ended with Stop and Think It Over, but
Yeah.
this is Don't Cry No More, written by
Cry me a
Diedrich
river,
Malone.
you cry me a sea. You'll never leave without a doubt. You really, really, really love me.
Another great organ solo, obviously.
Cry me a river.
You can hear the people in the
you
background.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's kind of like
upstairs,
na 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 na
yeah.
na 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 na.
You really, really, really love me. Don't cry no more.
Like, you know, they're going for that kind of thing.
Don't cry no more, girl. I say I'm begging you. Whatever do you care? Show me that your love is true. You don't cry no more. You don't cry no more. Don't you cry. I'm on my knees, girl. I beg you, please, little girl. I don't want to see you crying. Dry away your tears. I don't want to see you cry. You're never gonna cry. I'm on my knees.
Having a hard time finding out
Little girl. I don't want to see you crying anymore.
who did this song. Oh, it must be Roy Head. Any relation to Murray?
You're never gonna cry. Oh, baby, don't cry.
Roy Head.
Don't cry. When I'm on my knees. Yeah,
It
baby,
just sounds
please,
filthy.
I don't want to see you
So does
cry
Murray Head.
anymore. Oh, baby, don't
No, I don't know. There's something about like just one syllable and then head.
We're never gonna cry.
Like what if you said like Bill Head.
Oh, honey, don't you cry. Yeah, baby, don't cry.
Another 1966 song, too.
Never gonna cry. On my knees, girl. I beg you, please. I don't wanna see you crying no more. I never wanna see you cry. Oh, baby. I'm on my knees.
Sorry, there. I'm assuming they went with this because it's probably a set closer for them. Sounds like it would be a great way to close out a show.
Yeah.
All right.
Woo.
We'll wipe some sweat from my brow. That was
Woo.
Don't Cry No More. John, what do you think of Don't Cry No More?
Damn it. Sheet shut down again.
What is going on with the sheet? Why does it keep shutting down on you?
I don't know. It's just doesn't want me to review anything. All right. And Don't Cry No More. Good closer. I give it a 3
All right. I will also give it a 3.
because it had that, you know, the, whatever you call it. Na 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 type of vibe.
Na-na-na-na.
Yeah.
Hey, hey.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for. I think you said like kind of an album album closer, show closer, sing along, something to
Yeah.
you know, hype people up, go out on a high note, and I think they did.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That's the Artwoods Art Gallery. Give me 1 second here. All right. Okay. So while John fumbles with the spreadsheet, I'm going to fumble with our patrons, and namely the ones that we can thank for supporting our show, which is all of them. At the foundation level here, we have at the £3 aromatic feed tier, we have Simon Ford. At the $3.33 halfway to evil tier, we have Stephen Sharp and Duncan Leask. At the $3 nobody's perfect tier, we have Mr. Peter Gardeau, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Stuart McCord, Ivan Fjeldbu,
It's a great life if you know we can. It's a
Runar Simonson,
great life if you know we can. It's a
JJ Stenard, Ruinous Inadequacies, John Maselli,
You're a good kid.
Michael Boyette, and Corey Morissette of And the Podcast Will Rock and other shows, of course. At the $1.71 I Want My Own tier, we have
Rich, Youngly, Shaylor,
at the 10 kroner tier, Karsten Lau, At the £1 tier, Lord Longford. At the $1 made-up name tier, we have the Down in the Gravesite Leaky Mausoleum, Stephen Somerville, the Concerto 1999 Fanatic, Hank the Tank, Private Eyes, Ashen Lionel,
Blackmore tights.
and Steve Down to Earth Kohler. Thank you so much to all of you for your generous support of the Deep Purple podcast. All right. Well, we've done it. We've reviewed the album. There is only time for one other thing.
Bill John's busting it out the spreadsheet, and he's fumbling with the tabs. Oops, he sorted it the wrong way. Now he can't tell what is bad.
All right, John, where does the Artwoods Art Gallery stack up in the list of albums that we have reviewed?
Well, sadly, it's toward the bottom.
Yeah, not hard to believe. Hard to compete against albums of the, even 5 to 6 years later, just how far production has come.
5.75 combined rating. So it is it's a little bit below Blackmore's Night. Can't believe that one. And and Fandango.
A little over Fandango of the Jolyn Turner variety.
Correct.
Fandango.
Yes. So it's
Simper's
it's
Fandango is a few spots above it.
Right. It's like within the top 10 like bottom albums, or the bottom 10 rather albums, which but I would say overall there's just kind of looking at some of these, I would say down here that it's falls in that category of like, there's like a couple of tracks on here that are pretty good. I think, like you said, it was historically important. I think it's a better kind of a 60s or blues based 60s album than we've reviewed yet, but it's gonna fall pretty low based on our our overall preferences, I think.
Yeah, not too surprising there.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeff Bryce sent over a bunch of scans of his album and some articles and stuff that helped me put together the notes for this. So just a big appreciation to Jeff as always. Album did not hit the charts. Not surprising. They were a huge live act. In one of the articles, I can't remember which one I read it from, but they said that they were basically a live act on par with the Animals. So they were pretty big in the scene. Like people, really had a lot of respect for them live. In early 1967, Hans Bregel and a German symphony orchestra from Frankfurt approached them about the idea of writing a special piece of music together, like some sort of concerto, perhaps. It didn't happen. And I think we had talked about that a very, very long time ago on our concerto episode, that even as early back as the Artwoods, Lord was toying with that idea. They were considered like an R&B scene, an R&B band, and that scene was kind of fading at this point. It was more giving way to rock acts. Keith Hartley left the band shortly after this, and he says, "It was a nightmare. I was always unhappy and got the sack in April. I was given 2 weeks' notice." He was replaced by Colin Martin. The group set out to Denmark, only to get there to find out that the tour had been canceled. But the promoter got together and got some last-minute gigs for them. And then they would follow up with him the next year in 1968 when the new group Roundabout was looking to do some shows in Denmark, including their first ever show. So it's kind of a connection there between who booked the Artwoods and the early Deep Purple. At the end, the Artwoods recorded their last single, "What Shall I Do?" and they even started writing their own material before they disbanded. A promoter named Jack Baverstock was looking for the band where he could capitalize on the gangster craze that was coming up around the movie Bonnie and Clyde. And it's funny that even at this point they're thinking of like these super gimmicky things for bands. But then the Artwoods accepted this, and they changed their name to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and they all dressed up like mobsters with the pinstripe suits, and they had the Tommy guns and all this sort of stuff. And they recorded their one and only song, "Brother, Can You Spare a Dime," as St. Valentine's Day Massacre before they disbanded. So John Lord says about that gimmick and the suits and everything, he said, "I felt ridiculous. We all did." After this, they disbanded, and John returned to session work for a little while before he would obviously form Deep Purple. So there you have it. That's kind of it. There's this CD release that came out in 1995, I think, that's got this whole album plus 14 additional tracks because they're so short.
Thanks.
So yeah, including basically this is all of their singles and all that sort of stuff. So plenty of Artwoods art gallery stuff to explore in the future. But yeah, interesting dive into this era and the backstory behind what John Lord was doing before he teamed up with the Deep Purple folks. And there you have it, folks. The Artwoods. John and I did it. We found a time to record, and we did it.
Hooray, we did it.
We bought ourselves another week, but soon children will be back in school and summer stuff will be over, and it'll actually, for some reason, be much easier. So we've got 2 difficult times every year now. The last 2 summers have been really difficult, and December. So we got to figure out where we can bank the stuff in advance.
Well, it was funny because last November, December wasn't that bad. Or which one was it where we were like coasting along kind of before the holiday, and we're like, oh, this is great. And then Mark and Pete wanted us to record, and then everything just fell apart the week before.
Both of our lives completely disintegrated right before Christmas. I was like, and I was like, thank God we have our episodes banked. But yeah, we unfortunately we had to cancel some. I've been trying to Clay and Rye have been trying to get me on North by South all summer, and I'm like, guys, I really want to, but I'm like, me and John have to have a show out in 48 hours, and we haven't even recorded it yet because it's just been so crazy. But it's been good. It's been a lot of fun. It's just been a really hectic summer. Yeah, I just feel like the past couple of summers have been getting progressively more difficult, which is but I think it's that there's stability, when the fall comes around, like for kids going back to school, and I think just somehow in both of our lives, that just brings a lot of stability. My family goes home because they always come home for 6 weeks in the summer. So there's just always a lot going on, and you want to cram in as much. You don't want to miss that family stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, neither do you. There's trips and activities and everything that we both do, and you don't want to miss any of it while you have the opportunity. So it's, but yeah. In the fall, I think we need to find out like a day of the week, like a day where you and I can have say every Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, whatever it is, we can do like a morning show or something. So we could just have that in the bank to just have something. I know we both have wacky schedules, but if we could coordinate, even if it was every other Friday or every other Thursday, whatever it is, a day where we could both be there and just have that as like an insurance. And it's like, if we need it, great. And if we don't have to do it, but then we could start banking some episodes. But anyway, this nobody wants to listen to this. This is like this is our official podcast meeting that we can talk about later. So yeah, exactly. All right. Well, John, thank you so much. Great listening to some 60s, groovy 60s music with you. Yeah, baby. It's my award-winning Austin Powers. That was even worse than my normal Austin Powers. Award-winning. Yeah, very Randy. Do the Artwoods make you horny? Very Randy, baby. Yeah. All right. Award-winning. Deep Purple Podcast Award. Yeah. I won't tell you what award it is, but all right. Well, thanks, John. I will talk to you later. See ya. See you next week, folks. Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also leave us a review in Apple Podcasts to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.